Zeus, the god of gods who destroys his enemies with thunderbolts. Hera, whose jealousy makes Olympus tremble. Artemis, with silver arrows that never miss their target. Athena, the bold warrior who fights for peace. Aphrodite, the fairest of all, who lights flames in the hearts of those who see her. Eros, the naughty boy who shoots people in the heart with his arrows and makes them fall in love. Hades, the god of the underground and death. Ares, the merciless god of war who fills hearts with animosity and hatred. Poseidon, the ruler of the oceans who boils in froth when he gets mad. Demeter, who gives life to earth every spring with her joy. Apollo, the god of the sun and prophecy. Lands in which legends and all these gods who feel become sad, rejoice, are jealous, and fall in love just like humans, live in a mixture of reality and imagination. Didyma, Miletus, Priene, Heraclea. In antiquity, the future was uncertain and dark for men who lived in a world of unknowns. However, they needed to predict the future to feel safe. They were worried. They wanted to know what their destiny was. That is why they created the god of light and prophecy, Apollo. And Apollo lighted up the darkness for them. He picked up special people. He made them speak his words with the inspiration he donated. These people could predict the future. They were the oracles. According to legend, on a day in which the god Apollo descended from Mount Ida, the place of Olympus gods in Anatolia, to wander, he came across Brancos, who was a shepherd around the Didyma region. He becomes very fond of him and teaches him the secrets of prophecy.
Ey çoban! Sabır yatağın, yıldızlar yorganındır senin. Sevdalısın toprağa, yağmura, rüzgara. Anlarsın yeryüzünün, gökyüzünün dilini. Onlar gösterir yolunu sana. Sen ki bilirsin olmuşun sırrını, ereceksin olacağın da sırrına.
The shepherd Brancos erects the first temple in the name of Apollo in a place where there once was a laurel forest and a freshwater spring. Those who descend from Brancos manage the Apollo temple for a very long time. In time, the fame of the temple is widespread. The temple becomes one of the most important centers of prophecy in the 7th and 6th centuries BC. And Didyma becomes renowned as the home of Apollo. Prophecy had a very important part in the religious life of society in antiquity. Oracles were highly respected as holy ones by the people. Those who wanted to learn the interpretation of the gods regarding the future consulted the oracles, and for this they came from distances afar by the thousands. They asked for the advice of the oracles on a very wide range of issues, ranging from the highest state matters to the least important personal problems, and counted on the guidance they were provided with using the message they received from the gods.
Ey tanrılar ülkesinin kahini, hadi söyle, beni bekleyen ne? Suya bak, alevlere bak, göçebe rüzgarını dinle. Yeni bir kente gideceğim. Hiçbir sokağından geçmediğim, anılarım olmayan bir kente. Ne uğurlayanım olacak beni, ne de karşılayanım sevinçle. Ey tanrılar ülkesinin ulu kahini, ne olacak halim? Söyle bana, beni bekleyen ne?
Suyun çözüldü dili duyuyorum. Kara toprak aydınlandı, görüyorum. Yitirdiklerin oldu kazandıklarının yanında. Bir tek sen kaldın, yalnız, tek başına. Bak yolcu, bir sır vereyim sana. Yılan bile arar yavrusunu, eşini. Giden gitti, artık ne gelir elden? Ey kadın, niye düştün yollara? Kaçacak yer yok ki. Bu acı, var ya bu acı, kuş olsan kaçırmaz seni.
Collective rituals were carried out in mid-April and May in the Apollo temple. The parade that started out from Miletus advanced along the sacred road. The crowd would finally reach the Apollo temple in Didyma singing hymns. A priest or priestess led the parade at the very front, and musicians who played instruments like the lyre, flute, and the kitara followed them. Following the musicians was a choir singing hymns for Apollo, and behind it were the nobles and groups of common people, respectively. They all wore white as a symbol of innocence and put laurel crowns on their heads, which was the symbol of the god Apollo. The journey, which progressed with stopovers in certain locations, called the stations, lasted for 4 days. The crown, which gathered in the sanctuary of Artemis, conducted the grand ceremony in the temple of Apollo. During the rituals, people prayed, lit fires, sang hymns, and made sacrifices. They made donations and votives depending on how fortunate they were. As fruits and paddies could be donated to the god, one or more animals could also be sacrificed. Bulls especially were sacrificed, as they were supposed to have a great power from God. Votives were offered on the altar, which would overflow with the commodities of the Ionians, who thrived in plenitude and prosperity. The musicians who came from all over the country sang hymns and contested in the peace festivities organized in the name of the god Apollo. After the hymns, those who had problems consulted the oracles and asked them for guidance. The oracles spoke in metrical verses, generally used expressions that were difficult to understand, and tried to avoid clear answers. These conversations sometimes led to misunderstandings. Croesus, the king of Lydia, consults the oracles before he attacks the Persian kingdom. He wants to learn the outcome of the war from them. The prophecy of the oracles was that of a collapsing grand empire. Croesus got eagerly involved in battle. Nevertheless, he spelled it backward. The collapsing empire was to be his own empire. The Persians captured Miletus. The temple was burnt down and plundered. Upon the great commander Alexander's order, the erection of a new temple, the traces of which we see today, started in the place of the ruined one. The construction of the temple, of which Daphnis of Miletus and Paeonius of Ephesus were the architects, lasted for centuries due to wars and plunder, and it was never completed. The layout of the Temple of Apollo is extraordinary in various aspects, even unprecedented. This monumental work of art, which is surrounded by 120 columns, has been mounted on a platform at the top of the steps, which provide access to it from all four sides, and was one of the most famous centers of prophecy in its era. In the middle of the peristyle was the Cella Sanctum, a small temple for the statue of Apollo was built in this part of the temple, into which only the oracles and priests could go. This monument never had a roof because of its enormous size. And Medusa. According to legend, Medusa started out as a very beautiful girl. She was so beautiful that even the god of the ocean, Poseidon, admired her. But then the goddess Athena became jealous and chastened Medusa, turning her into a gorgon. She transformed her into a very ugly creature with hair made of snakes and sharp teeth. She was so ugly that she scared away everyone who saw her and turned everyone into stone who she looked at. That is why the Medusa figure was used in buildings and decorations as a protector from mischief in the archaic ages. Today, the Medusa relief, regarded as a symbol of Didyma and the temple to Apollo, is the most beautiful and innocent-looking one among its likenesses. Who knows, maybe the mystery behind the fact that the temple can still preserve its magnificence, despite the passing of the ages, is Medusa and the oracles. The Menderes, the legendary river that creates and destroys civilizations. Menderes, the river believed in and worshipped like a god in antiquity, turned seas into grassy plains and cut the sea links of ports with the silt it carried throughout thousands of years. It changed the destiny of rich and strong cities which were shepherding civilization in that era. And one of these cities was Miletus, the most important commerce and trade center of West Anatolia in the ancient world. It owed this to the fertile lands of the great Menderes. The people of Miletus lived in prosperity thanks to agricultural products such as corn, cotton, grapes, olives, in addition to barley and wheat cultivated in these lands. Miletus wool and textiles were famous with their quality. Weaving looms were commonly used. Rich merchants coming from many countries for trade gave weight to Miletus' economy. Miletus ceramics were in great demand in the archaic world. They were rightfully famous for making wine and olive oil. All these products were carried by ships to remote places from Miletus' 4 large ports, enriching Miletus through a wide-scale trade. Miletus became the metropolis of the archaic world through almost 90 colonies established with the help of its trade relations. And it also became the capital of the religious and political union established by 12 Ionian cities in the Aegean. Most of all, the city which lived its brightest period in the 7th and 6th centuries BC became the center of science, art, and culture of the period. Through these economic developments, a free medium of thought was created for the scientists of Miletus to prosper. Thales, the natural scientist, astronomer, and mathematician, contrary to the prophecy and mythology which related every occurrence with the existence of a different god, stated that causes and the results of every occurrence were to be found in nature itself. He established the Thales theorem, which enables the calculation of the distance of a ship in the sea. And was the first to mention a relation between the world, the sun, and the moon. This incident brings the Milesian scientist great fame in the archaic world. Miletus, the most powerful city in West Anatolia, maintained its magnificence for centuries up until the Persian invasion. Croesus, the king of Lydia, attacked the Persians after learning of their intention to take over the gold mines in Lydia, but suffered a thrashing defeat. The Persians, after capturing Lydia, took over other cities in West Anatolia one by one. Miletus, under Persian hegemony, fought for independence against the Persians in 464 BC, but was defeated. The prophecies of the oracles came true.
O zaman ey Miletus, ey belalar işçisi, o zaman birçokları için zengin bir şölen, parlak bir ganimet olacaksın. O zaman kadınların ele geçecek. Uzun saçlıların ayaklarını yıkayacaklar. O zaman bizim Didyma bizim Apollon, bizim tapınağımız yabancı efendilerin malı olacak.
Miletus, which once ruled the Aegean Sea, entered the Lade Sea War with 80 ships, but lost all of its fleet. Miletus was burnt down and ruined by the Persians, its people captured and exiled. The accumulated treasury in Didyma was impounded. Priene. Ionians founded their towns under the most beautiful sky, in places with the best climate on earth that we know of. The town, traces of which are seen today, was founded in 350 BC over the ancient one. The streets of the town, which was founded according to the plan of the famous Miletus architect Hippodamos, was built in a grid manner. Priene, which was a member of the Ionian Confederation, hosted pan-Ionian events organized by the Union once a year. As representatives from 12 Ionian cities, they would discuss common problems, determine the manner they would act against their common enemies, and try to please the gods in religious ceremonies. Listen much.
Çok dinle.
Speak when
Yerinde
appropriate.
konuş.
Do
Ölçüyü
not
kaçırma.
go beyond the limit. Avoid
Çabuk
speaking
konuşmaktan
fast.
sakın.
You will slip and
Yanılırsın.
regret will follow.
Ardından
Think of
pişmanlık
what you
gelir.
do. Attempt
Yaptığını
slowly
düşün. İşe yavaş
and
giriş.
nestle after you begin.
Başladıktan sonra sıkı sarıl.
Take
Güzellik
with
dağıt.
gentleness, not
Zorlayarak
with
değil.
coercion. The author of these words is one of the 7 philosophers of the ancient world, the famous jurist Bias. As Thales of Miletus, Bias is also from Anatolia. Bias, living in Priene and studying politics, had an important influence on the society he lived in. One of the most ancient and important buildings in Priene, the Temple of Athena. The temple, built in the name of the goddess Athena, reminds one of the Halikarnassos mausoleum in Bodrum, which is regarded as one of the 7 wonders of the world, as they were both built by the architect Pythios. The similarity does not end with just that. Both works of the architect have undergone the same destiny. The facade of the mausoleum is now in the British Museum, and most of the facade of the Temple of Athena are in the Berlin Museum. The theater was a very important part of the social life in antiquity. A successful playwright was deemed worthy of honor as a hero. Theaters displayed activity in the daytime, not in the evening. City dwellers gathering in the theater in the early hours of the morning watched 5 to 6 comedies and tragedies in quick succession. The theater of Priene was built on a natural slope. plays were staged with an orchestra which had a pit of pressed soil. Spectators did not sit where they wanted. Captives took their places at the hindmost banks. The first 5 marble seats were seats of honor and were intended for important statesmen. The best preserved theater in this region, the Theater of Priene, hosted both comedies and tragedies, and was also used as the people's assembly.
Güzel şey iktidarı elde tutmak, üstün bilgili olmak. Ama ne kıskançlıklar doğuyor arkasından. Söyle bakalım kör kahin, en son ne zaman isabetli bir kehanette bulundun ha?
Sen hükümdarsın ama yine de seninle birbirine denk iki insan gibi konuşma hakkını kendimde görüyorum. Ben senin kölen değilim. Kreon'un da kölesi olmam. Sen benim körlüğümü yüzüme kaktın. Kimin yanında nasıl bir ömür geçirdiğini göremedikten sonra senin gözlerin neye yarar? Kimin oğlu olduğunu biliyor musun? Dünya ve ahirette hem ailen için hem kainat için nasıl bir kara leke olduğunu biliyor musun? Başına gelecek her türlü kerametten habersizsin. Öyleyken sen yine benim kerametlerimi çamura bul.
Bu deli saçmalarını söyleyeceğini bilseydim seni çağırtmazdım buraya.
Sana göre aklını kaybetmiş bir adamım. Ama sana hayat veren anne ve baban için aklı başında bir bilgeyim. Doğduğun gün öldün Oidipus.
Sabrımı tüketiyorsun artık, git buradan. Her şey aydınlandı artık. Ey gün ışığı! Bu senin son görüşüm olsun. Doğurmamalıydı beni doğuran. Birleşmemeliydim birleştiğimle. Öldürmemeliydim öldürdüğümü.
One of the buildings of the city, which has succeeded in standing until this day, the theater for 5,000 persons, is regarded as the best example of Hellenistic theater features in Anatolia. The Romans, who ruled the region later, enlarged the theaters and made fundamental changes in the architecture of the theater. The forgotten city, Heraklia. Heraklia was a port city built by the order of the king of Caria, Mausolos. Heraklia lost its connection with the sea because of alluvium, brought by the great Menderes River, and hence became desolate, although it was once very wealthy and active. It stayed forgotten until the Byzantine period. In this period, some monks and priests took shelter in the Latmos mountains around Heraclea and the Bafa Lake, running away from the Sinai Peninsula and Yemen because of their religious beliefs. There are also remnants of the Christian period in Heraclea. The Stelos Monastery, known to be very important in the Christian world, was built on a hill overlooking the lake at the south point of Heraclea. And a monk called Paulos lived in the monastery in the 10th century. Rumor has it that he lived on a column for years by eating acorns and plant roots. Visitors from Miletus, Crete, Bulgaria, and Russia visited the saint. There is also a small cave which was used as a cell of ordeal that belonged to monk Paulos. This view of the monastery sunk in its solitude makes one think about the feelings of the monks who lived here for years.
Pater nostre, quies in celis sentif, icetur mementum, adventia regnum tuum, fia voluntas tua, sicut in celi, in a terra.
One of the monasteries hidden in the aprons of Latmos, namely the Beshparmak Mountains, is the Monastery of the Sevens. Surrounded by walls, the monastery consists of 2 churches, 1 chapel, and 1 cistern. Its cell of ordeal was made by carving into a round rock and forming a cavity, and its ceilings are decorated with frescoes. There are a large number of interesting tombs in the territory between the Byzantine fortress and the lake. There is a separate lid for each tomb, which is more often carved into the rocks in an adjacent fashion, next to each other. Some tombs are carved into the rocks which are very close to the shore and are on the lake. The number of tombs scattered along the various parts of the antique city of Heraclea has been determined to be around 2,500. The place where the moon shines most beautifully is Buffa Lake. There is a secret to why the moon shines most beautifully over Buffa Lake. The goddess of the moon, Selene, comes by her cart with silver wheels to see her beloved shepherd. One evening, Selene, traveling the earth, casting silver light, looks down and sees a young man playing a pipe and grazing his sheep in the apron of a hill. Endymion is so handsome that the goddess of the moon, Selene, falls in love with him at first sight. She comes down to the ground and approaches him. The shepherd is surprised when he sees the goddess before him, but cannot withstand the beauty of Selene and responds to her love. After that night, they start to meet at the rocks every night. But Selene is violating the laws of Olympus. Because the shepherd is mortal, and according to the laws of Zeus, it is impossible for a goddess to be with a mortal. Selene, who could not give up her love, prays to Zeus to make her lover immortal. Zeus accepts this request. The young man will sleep till the end of time and will always be young. Their love is lived in the cosmos of the dreams and is united with the sleep of eternity, just as with the eternity of the cosmos. Thence, the moon shines the best on Buffa Lake. Oracles and sages live together, witnessing bloody wars and passionate loves, reborn from the ashes after being burnt down and collapsed, the marble and gold cities. Didyma, Miletus, Priene, Heraclea. The source of inspiration for legends, poems, science, philosophy, and art. The land of Homer, Herodotus, Thales, Strabon, Aesop, and many others who were born and grew up on the soil of the Aegean. The spirits, legends, fairy tales of all those magnificent civilizations are still living in Anatolia with their magnificent constitutions, which has a history of more than 10,000 years and has been the motherland of so many different cultures. While the hymns that were sung in the annual peace festivals in the name of the god Apollo, with the Katira, echo on every column of the temple, today they become folk songs of peace on the plectrum of the saz, which is a local string instrument and is dispersed as hope on both sides of the Aegean. Miletus, in the most glorious theater in western Anatolia, you may sit on the king's throne and almost hear the applause echoing over the marble, while dreaming about the tragedies played here. When you see the shining snow-white temple, as if made of light, that crosses your path at the end of the road, you cannot decide for a moment whether it's real or a dream. But then, when you consider that those who constructed this temple were also human beings with their intellect, labor, faith, and boundless creativity, you understand that what stands before you is actually the splendor of the human spirit. Who knows, maybe somewhere inside you, you can hear an oracle which is providing the answers that you have always searched for. And this time Medusa, who has witnessed all the past, is telling you her own story.
I am Medusa, witness of all ages. I have seen temples burn down and collapse. Cities I have seen that have been ruined. I have seen dark faces full of animosity and hatred. I saw the day turn into night in midday. Scared faces I have seen as fire rained on them. I am Medusa. I have seen what man does to man. Human beings, look, don't shut your eyes to evil. Those who are scared of looking at me are those who see the reflection of their own souls on my face.
There will again be sunrise and sunset. The fig trees will bear fruit again, 1,000 times over, and then 1,000 more. I see people, crowns made of laurel twigs on their heads, peace flowers in their hands, each with the joy of a hero, walking down the holy road. Animosity and hatred will be buried in the deepest graves. There will be no winner or loser. There will be no shadow of the dark. Light on their face, they will sing songs of peace in their festivals. The temple will reach an endless peace of mind on that day when it comes.